This video is going to be a somewhat difficult look at something that I believe is a long-term problem for the Baltimore Ravens, spanning across multiple offensive coordinators, running backs coaches, receivers coaches, etc. Yes, of course, John Harbaugh is the common denominator here, so perhaps it falls back on him. I'm not entirely sure of that, but I want to show you the situations, explain to you my thoughts on it. Um, After what is clearly an extremely harsh loss to the Chiefs 17-10. I think the Ravens played quite poor across the board. Defensively was poor the first two possessions, and they fixed a lot of things thereafter. Having it be a home loss again in a game where we voluntarily went away from the run game, which is a big part of our offensive philosophy. And Lamar had some moments that are tough to watch for all of us. Makes it all of those factors make it worse to deal with, perhaps worse than even 2019, which I know a lot of people still reference and talk about. I will deal with some of the issues with quarterback play in maybe a separate or later video. Because to be honest with you, I'm less concerned about Lamar than others, to be upfront. I think our game planning and play calling overall was very poor. I do wonder or speculate if there's some plays that are called RPOs where we could hand it off, or we could throw it out to the edge, some bubble screens to Zay, snag flat concepts, quadruple option, if you will, and Lamar is not handing the ball off when perhaps he should be. At least one example I showed in a video that I put out on Tuesday morning. It is, for me, very difficult to understand. I can understand and criticize coaches quicker because I've been one, obviously nowhere near this level, but I know what I had to put into it to even be adequate or good or whatever people thought I was as a coach. For me, I had to spend an entire weekend doing game plans and writing up practice plans for no matter who we played, whether we were playing a 9-0 undefeated team averaging 50 points a game, or whether we were playing a team that was 2-7. My mentality didn't allow any other option for me, regardless of record. So on a personal level, I can't imagine how an NFL team doesn't come out looking more prepared in the first quarter. And that's why I'm so harsh. That's why I'm more harsh on our defense than other people are. From an offensive standpoint, come on, we've seen a high blitz scheme and man coverage a lot. Occasionally, we've been able to run the ball and really abuse those teams. And we have a team that's not good against the run in the Chiefs. We go away from that. So it's easy or simple for me to criticize those things. And I did in a video that I put out earlier today, like I said. So I'll link that up here if you want to check it out, if you didn't check it out already. I understand it's difficult to watch some of this stuff at this point. This issue I'm going to address in this video is very specific. Nonetheless, I think it is more concerning than Lamar not playing well consistently, and in some ways more concerning than the lack of very specific preparation that I think was a problem for us offensively and defensively early in this Chiefs game. So what I want to focus on is what I think is a recurring issue in big moments in the playoffs. Really, two situations that offensively need some focus. And when I say need some focus, I mean by our coaching staff and our players. And that's ball security in certain situations. It's probably going to turn people off because it's going to sound critical towards a lot of players. The way that I approach it is this: if 4 or 5 or 6 players or human beings demonstrate the same issue and you're the leader in charge of those people, you have to take responsibility for that, whether it is in fact your fault or not. Some people would say, well, Zay Flowers is a rookie, so this fumble on the goal line, hey, it's just a great play by L'Jarius Sneed. And don't get me wrong, it is a fantastic play. Hustle is unpredictable. I got that quote from a really great coach who, if he's listening, he knows I'm talking about him. But there's some crazy parallels to this play from sequences in previous playoff losses. And I want to point some of them out and then find out if you guys have the same thoughts as me, the number of parallels, and in fact, from some games in 2023. So you have a situation where Zay's trying to get in score. Understandable, it's a 2nd and 8 from the 9. So, theoretically, some people would say, hey, man, you got the first down. He's not thinking about that. He's thinking about scoring. And in other levels of play, he scores. His youth football experience, his high school football, his college experience, probably going against our practice squad defensive guys, he scores if they allow this much effort and contact to occur, which they probably don't in many situations. But at the highest level, when there's less time and less space because the defense is challenging everything, these things happen. I think the ball security focus, emphasis, drills need to reflect that. Maybe not every day and every moment, but it's got to be specific. It's got to be outspoken. This is what we're practicing right now so that these things don't continue to happen. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to show film of current players making those mistakes, or in this case, having the ball knocked out right before scoring a touchdown that I think would have got us within 17-14 with 14:50 left in the game. A lot of time to beat what I believe is an inferior, talented team. And there's Chiefs fans that have come in the comment section, and clearly they're going to take offense to that. I wish that I could phrase it in another way. Reverse the situation. The Ravens play horrible for the better part of 45 minutes, 46 minutes, counting this fumble, and the Chiefs play extremely well, which is what happened. Reverse the order. If the Chiefs play horrible for 46 minutes and the Ravens play really well, we beat them by 3 or 4 touchdowns. It's just a fact. They're just not as talented as us overall on either side of the ball. Nonetheless, their defense played really well. Even though they were getting worn down in the fourth quarter, I feel like we should have tried to run more plays. So I'm going to look at other situations where position players have fumbled the ball in the middle of making a play, gaining yards, but they demonstrate no awareness to flow and the potential for a trailing defender to close on them and punch at the ball. And you know, I've brought this issue up before in 2023, and unfortunately it came to pass. And look, Zay Flowers, I'm not worried about him at all. I'm not worried about Lamar either. He had a big impact Sunday. He was our best player. 5 catches, 115 yards, 8 targets. That touchdown in the first quarter was pretty amazing. But that was a big turnover. And to me, it looks like a systemic problem, possibly, when multiple players across one season, 2023, in fact, multiple years, demonstrate poor ball security when there's going to be converging, pursuing defenders in the NFL. In college and high school, these guys would break away and they would score. So there has to be very specific, goal-oriented drills to address this issue at this point. And if there's not, I fear that these things could happen again. At every other level of football that Zay Flowers has played, that fumble on the goal line that L'Jarius Sneed obviously forced, but Zay Flowers opened the door for it. At every other level of football for him, it's a touchdown. The closing speed, the pursuit, the effort in the playoffs at this level against a championship team like the Chiefs, it's incredibly high. And to me, it's another example of us fumbling or having fumbles forced because we're not demonstrating high enough ball security for the NFL level to deal with closing defenders with enough size, speed, strength, and explosiveness to knock the ball out. Perhaps you say, these 2 plays don't remind me of the Zay Flowers fumble, coach, because they're not near the goal line. And I understand that. I'm using them to set up another one that's going to be difficult for you to watch, obviously. But these are guys making moves. And I think I mentioned it in the reaction video. Kirby Smart has a great video about it. I actually linked it out on Twitter earlier this year. Maybe I'll link it out again, where he's talking about how to practice not fumbling. And there's a lot of ways you do it. Because you've got to secure the football throughout any move. And in this case, the slightest moment when the ball is out away from your body, which you really get a great view of here with Justice Hill, and I don't mean to pick on him or Zay or Kenyon Drake. The slightest moment when the ball is out, at the exact time that someone punches it in, those 2 things appear to be random or accidental. How many times do they have to happen to the Ravens inside the red zone, inside the 10, inside the 5 in the playoffs before we address it? Now, personally, I think Todd Monken called one of his worst games Sunday, but I think he's a far better coach than he showed against the Chiefs. He should have to answer for it, though, and he should have to adapt. I do have some theories I'll expand upon later in another video later this week. These plays are not anomalous to me, in my opinion, because you've got some really good football players, all with different names on the back of their jersey, who've been involved in them. And like I said, I knew this one was going to be difficult to watch. I think it has a lot of similarities to Flowers, in my opinion, even though it's a quarterback stretching for a touchdown. I'll try to spare you Sam Hubbard returning at 99 yards. It's a quarterback stretching out for a touchdown. It's a lack of awareness that NFL defenders are going to challenge all 100 yards, in fact more, 104, 108 yards of the field, length of the field and width of the field, 53 1/3 or whatever it is. And Flowers, Huntley, Drake, I showed you, who I know didn't spend much time with his team in 2023, but he played with us for most of 2022. Justice Hill's been with us for a while. Zay Flowers is a rookie, so you may say, well, coach, he's been coached by other people before us. To me, these are situations inside the red zone, inside the 5, at the goal line, where you just can't turn the football over. And here we are, second year in a row, we do it again. In 2023, we finished with 22 turnovers in 19 games played. That's way better than some other teams. I think the Chiefs had 30 turnovers so far this year. They're in the Super Bowl. When we don't turn the football over, we win, period. I don't think there's a football team in the league that you can put together that is going to beat us if we don't turn the football over. And I think you can look at this game against the Chiefs, even though we got outplayed. Fumble on the goal line. This interception that I'm going to show you, Lamar underthrows it to Likely. A lot of our playoff losses have hinged on or been altered by turnovers inside the red zone, inside the 10, inside the 5, at the goal line. Ball security, awareness. Part of it, like I mentioned earlier, is constricted space and less time to make decisions and get things executed because the defenses are better. The defenses are more proud. Defenses are probably better coached. It's a real dynamic at every level, no matter what sport you played or didn't play. At some point, you reached a level where the things you could do to everyone else in your neighborhood, everyone else on your block, everyone else in your middle school, you couldn't do to all the players that suddenly were there in high school or college or whatever level you maxed out at. If you could take everybody off the dribble in basketball, there became a time when you encountered players that you couldn't take off the dribble. You had to use some change of direction. You had to go deeper in your bag, so to say, because things got more difficult to execute. If you were a wrestler, you found a tournament where you couldn't just blast double everyone. We've all experienced it at various levels, no matter what sport we played. To me, these turnovers indicate a lack of awareness to ball security and game situation. And from the top, I don't know if it hasn't been stressed enough. To me, it appears as if it has not. From this point forward, it needs to be. Otherwise, I fear it's going to happen again. The ball thrown by Lamar is, underthrown here to Likely. He's coming back to him. Poor throw. Is there contact? Absolutely. What are we going to do? We're going to sit here and bitch about it? The fact is, they got away with some more contact than maybe we would have in certain situations. But the Chiefs' defense played great. They played with a lot of energy, a lot of effort. They tackled well. We can't open ourselves up to these things. For me personally, as a person with a coaching background, nowhere near this level, I have to take responsibility if this is my team. If this is my quarterback making that throw, not caring for the football on 1st and 10, I have to take responsibility for that. And then we've got to figure out a way to converse about it personally and explain that there's going to be drills that we do to simulate as best we can these situations. You can't simulate down 17-7 at home in the fourth quarter of a game against a team that you think you're better than. You can't simulate that. But you can hammer away every day with offensive players that we need to demonstrate the highest level of ball security in the most intense situations where it's needed. Whose fault is it? Is it perhaps you don't see the relationship that I do between Zay Flowers' fumble on the goal line, Lamar's interception, and the other plays that are referenced? I haven't referenced or shown video of the interception in Buffalo in 2020. First of all, it's ages ago. The road loss in the 2020 playoffs. I think we could beat that team, that Bills team, that night. I think our defense played fantastic with a couple of lapses in formation identification and alignment. That interception, if we don't throw an interception down there that Taron Johnson takes back to the house, at worst, we're down 14-10. At worst, because it's 14-7 at that point, or it's 10-7 at that point, excuse me. So we have a clear opportunity, if you ask me, to win multiple playoff games that we've lost if we don't turn the football over, especially where it's happened. You may have a different opinion than me. You may think that it's not a persistent problem because there's multiple coaches that have been here from a position player standpoint, running backs coach, quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator. We've gone through 2 now. The individual players, do they bear some responsibility? Absolutely. I believe, and I've always believed, that players, people, whatever you stress to them on a daily basis, they will do their best to follow through on. let's do it this way. We've seen the Chiefs and the Patriots play a ton of playoff games in the last 20 years. Do you remember a lot of turnovers by those teams inside the 10, inside the 5, at the goal line? I don't. And those teams have played a lot of playoff games. For me, in the time that I've tried to cover the Ravens football team, really since 2020, in a small sample size, small number of games, we've got a high number of turnovers in the red zone that illustrates it's not being stressed enough. Not just the ball security, the actual technique of securing the football, the drills that you do to promote that, which I'm not going to go into here. I mean, I'll do that in my Discord or Patreon if people want to, but because everybody has different drills they do. But these are small situations that you don't get to because they occur so rarely. You only get to if you focus on them. And for it to occur in consecutive years, the Hubbard 99-yard fumble return for a touchdown, the difference in the game, right? 24-17 loss at Cincinnati last year. I realize if we win that game, we're in a worse draft position, so I understand people's opinions may vary about whether you, quote, wanted to win, but we're talking about over 5 football players across multiple play concepts and years. It's enough for me as a former coach to wonder if and when it has been addressed at all, and will it be now? Because to me, I'm looking at this game, and I don't foresee us playing this horribly if we were to face off with this Chiefs team again in the AFC Championship game next year, which could very well happen. I understand the history of every 11 or every 12 years for the Ravens. Sounds great. Would look forward to that rematch. But if this isn't addressed, in my opinion, we could still be dealing with this issue, talking about this issue 12 months and 1 day from now. And I don't want that to happen. I have no, obviously, skin in the game in terms of influence in it, but to me, it looks like something that's obvious that needs to be addressed. Your perception, the intensity of your concern may be different than mine. For me, it's an extreme concern because Zay Flowers is an amazing football player, and he's got unbelievable potential. Lamar Jackson is an unbelievable football player, unbelievable quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback in the future. Hasn't happened yet. Some of these other guys, lesser players talent-wise, Tyler Huntley, Kenyon Drake, Justice Hill, in my opinion, there has to be more of an emphasis, more stress on these situations in a creative way. 4, 5, 6 different drills that you rotate through. Don't use each drill every day. 2 of them per day. Make it a point of emphasis and do that until it's second nature. Because right now, unfortunately, when our guys are making moves in congested space, it's not second nature to protect the football. And I think the film shows that. And I appreciate you guys' time. If you sat through the whole video, I understand the film study stuff is difficult to probably engage with this week. Give everybody a watch. Sip to Tally, Coach Evans, Cole Jackson, Engraven, obviously. You know, that dude doesn't really need any promotion. But all the content creators that are out there, try to support their work. At least go comment on their videos, even if you don't watch them. Because after losses like this, it's, number one, tough to look at the film. And number two, dangerous to point out the things that need to be worked on. Because no matter what fan base it is, it's often hard to hear the harsh reality. But for me, if we don't address stuff like this, unfortunately, there might be a need to do videos like this again 1 year from now. Appreciate you guys' time.